this month we're going to have a look at a trail build feature all around looking after a section of trail that gets quite a lot of heavy use. We're into a little bit more of a technical trail here on the DH3 on Aston Hill, and this section here, fast downslope into this corner and then away. So riders are really looking to carry speed through here. Over time what's happened is riders coming in have formed this little ridge here, and basically what this causes is what I call a sender. If you're on the inside here, great, you're going to fire around the corner. If you're on the outside, as you can see by these tyre marks, the trail is going to scrub your speed and it's going to try and push you off to the outside of the trail. Obviously doing that you're going to brake. If a lot of people do that, the wear on this trail becomes phenomenal and we have a lot of maintenance to do. So picking up at this time and just doing a little bit of work makes a big bit of difference. So the riders have been coming down, and this berm here was built up a little bit higher to begin with, but over time nature, riders, a number of different forces have pulled this material away on the edge. So what we've got to do is reshape this berm. The easiest solution, and probably the one that most people would go for, is to dig this material out and pile it up on the side of here. The big problem is this is so hard packed that anything we put on here is unlikely to stick. So we could dig this down, but in digging this down we're changing the levels on the trail. And what we've got to be very careful of here is we can already see where water's gathered here, and what we want to do is make sure that water and the riders running through here run through and out of the corner. The other thing we're going to put in on this is a little bit of a rolling grade dip for drainage just after the turn, where we're going to just camber in both sides of the trail so water running down the track, down the trail and down the bank can all escape off of the trail. So it's going to be quite a big one, just to make sure that we can manage all of that water flowing through here, and again just make it so the riders can flow through this section with no trouble. So we're not going to use any of this material to bank up, we're going to be digging down, building a whole new level and working through from there. So what we've been doing is first off just using the mattock to just break up the surface. As we've looked at before on the trail building sessions, the mattock's brilliant at doing this. Doesn't hang around, gets right in there. What I'm trying not to do is to go too deep and just to feel my way through, all the time remembering that the riders are flowing through this section rather than just riding into it. You could argue that a lot of this soil is really good mineral soil because it's coming out, we're deep enough down here to use it to build the berm. But I'm still concerned that if I use too much of this on the outside, that the first rider down that really pushes into that berm is going to find it pushing down over the hill. The other big risk here is water. We've got a lot of water going through this section, and what we don't want it to do is to undercut what we've built and start to wash it away. Over time this corner is always going to need a little bit of maintenance, which is why we're here today, but by widening it back up, giving that corridor back to the riders, and although they may come in and go off the edge, they're not going to find that ridge sending them in a range of different directions. If you think back to that early one, if your front wheel's on one side and your back wheel's on the other, you're going to have a moment. What we're doing is just making it so you can come through here, head up, gas on, and just keep the trail flowing. So the first bit of the build's really starting to take shape. What we've done is we've taken the trail down and cut across as we said we were going to. The lump that was here is gone now, as you can see, and what we've got is a much wider trail bed, and that's really what we're looking for. The key thing with this is just taking care not to do too much too quickly. You're working with a finite level. If I start to disturb this bedrock here, I'm never really going to get that back as hard as it is right now. So what I'm looking to do is to just use the spade and as we've looked at before, digging up rather than digging down into the soil, and just looking to work around and really get a feel for those levels. If you're building trail for the first time, you'll take a little while just to get a feel for that and how the tool will work with you. So just be careful and take your time. Don't worry too much about this being a job that you're going to take on and get done in a few minutes. Give yourself a couple of hours to get it going. So where we are now, we've cut through, we've actually gone down into the bedrock a little bit here, and we've just had to think about what we're going to do with that, because we don't want to go too deep and end up with too much of this coming out. At the end here, now we're going to think about that rolling grade dip. Previously I was going to put it just a little bit behind the corner. What we'll probably end up doing now is moving it forward a little bit and draining it this side of the tree, building a small hump and then draining it the other side. So I'll crack on with that and we'll come back and see how that goes. So everything's starting to come together now. A bit of hard work, but it's looking really good. We've shaped in the ledge here, so we've got a much wider tread for the riders to come down on. Done a little bit of drainage at the front here, and also a little bit of drainage on the other side of this small mound, just to stop the water from coming down on the back of the hill. Drainage is always a big consideration. We've got a lot of water coming down both directions, and also coming down off the slope. We want to get it out of the trail as quickly as possible. A good trail should dry as quickly as any pavement. If you can get that, then you know that once the sun comes out, riders are going to be back up to speed in no time at all. As I said, we're nearly here with this one now. What I've got to do is a little bit of packing and then camouflage everything back up, and it'll be ready to ride. So this section's come together really well. Really pleased with how the section's widened up. We've got rid of the ridge that was beginning to send riders off the trail and just re-engaged all of the drainage so that water coming down from either side of the trail or the outslope or through the slope into the outslope can run away. What we might want to do here is just keep a close eye on this area, just in case we've gone a little bit low here. It's quite hard to judge levels out in the woods. We could bring a level with us, but we're just going to do it by eye, and so as a result what I'd want to do is just come back down and check this area here isn't catching any water and is draining properly off over the track. Last little finishing touches we've done is just to pack down all of the surface here. Just gives it a good tread, and if it does rain it just means that the water's going to start running over it. It will take a few weeks just for this to consolidate, but we've given it a big head start. The other thing we've done is just camouflage up the edge of the trail, covering over where we've thrown all of the dirt we don't need, just so riders aren't distracted coming down. And the final thing is just to open up the line of sight out through the corner, so riders coming down have a much better idea of where it is they want to go. So clearing off the edge of the trail, pushing it over to the other edge, just redefining the tread line, all makes a big difference and finishes this section off perfectly.